Hello, my name is Judith Herrmann and I am the Director of the Conflict Management and Resolution Program at James Cook University. Our program is a postgraduate program offering a graduate certificate and a Master of Conflict Management and Resolution. All our subjects are being taught both in external or online mode as well as in limited or blended mode, meaning that there is some online engagement as well as a face-to-face workshop, usually of 3 days offered across a weekend. The majority of workshops would be 3 days from 9 to 5 starting on a Friday and finishing on a Sunday. I teach one subject in our program called conflict analysis, and as these other subjects, it's being offered in blended mode with online engagement before and after the workshop, as well as a 3-day workshop. Now, the number of weeks after classes end before final assessment really varies in our program because we've got a number of subjects that we have to fit into the same study periods, and we want to avoid clashes. So there might be a number of somewhere between 5 to probably 7 or 8 weeks between the workshop and the major assessment task, which is usually a written piece of worth about 50%. We don't have a final exam, so we don't have that final assessment task. We have one final reflective paper in all of our subjects, and that is usually worth about 10% and can be due somewhere again between 7 to 10 weeks after the workshop. Now, the reason why we teach in this blended mode is to suit the needs of our students and also to align with how training in conflict management and resolution is usually delivered, which is in 3, 4 or 5 day, full day workshops. So our student cohort consists mainly of part-time students who work either full-time or part-time. They're usually mature age students and they live across Australia. And because we offer our subjects across weekends, students can fly into Townsville or Cairns, participate in the workshop and then return on a Sunday evening. So some of the challenges that we face with the way that we run our subjects is to prepare students adequately for the workshops. For example, my own subject, conflict analysis, includes a number of rather complex concepts that cannot easily be taught in a short 3-day workshop. So it's really important that students engage with the teaching and learning material before they come to the workshop. Now, one of the challenges is to ensure that students are at the same level of preparedness when they come to the workshop, because there's a lot of group discussions and they can only really be meaningful if students are at a certain level. We've in the past had comments from students saying that it was a bit frustrating when they felt that they had really well prepared before the workshop and there were other students in the classroom who hadn't prepared, so that really impacted on the quality of the discussions that took place. So what we're trying to do now is to ensure that students do engage with the material beforehand, and we have some assessment tasks due before the workshop that assess students' engagement or understanding of the learning material. In all of our subjects, we have an assessment task that's called the initial learning brief, where students have to talk about their experience with a particular topic or subject, and they have to read somewhere between 2 and 5 readings and get a few questions to answer to ensure that they have engaged with this material and that task is due before the workshop. We're also planning to introduce some more quizzes prior to workshops, which will reflect sort of the workshop preparedness quizzes that we were introduced to during the workshop on intensive mode teaching. One of the challenges as well that we faced a few years ago was seeing that some students would enroll in a subject, would participate in a workshop if it was delivered before the census date, and could then withdraw before the census date and did not have to pay any subject fees but got to participate in a 3-day workshop. So what we try to do is to place a workshop right after the census date within a study period, so that by the time that students come to the workshop, they're well and truly enrolled and their enrollment has been finalised through payment on the census date. And this way of running our subjects requires us to ensure that every student gets to engage in a meaningful way before the census date and knows what the subject will be about. And that is another reason why we introduced the assessment task that is due prior to the workshop, so that students do get this engagement with the material and get an understanding of what the subject is about. So by the time they come to the workshop, census date is passed, and we have still complied with requirements to ensure that students know what a subject will entail.